Ambassador Hyun-woo walked through the long hallways of the Galactic Council building. His black shoes made soft sounds on the smooth floor. The walls were covered with pictures of many different alien species. Each picture showed a moment when that species joined the council. Hyun-woo had looked at these pictures many times over the past 3 years. Today he barely noticed them. The human delegation followed behind him. Min-soo, the military advisor, carried a thick folder of papers. His face looked tired. So-young, the science expert, checked her tablet one more time. She had prepared for this meeting for weeks. Behind them walked 12 other humans, all experts in different fields. They had all worked hard to make today successful, but Hyun-woo knew it would not be successful. He had received the council's final decision yesterday. The alien leaders had made their choice. They did not want humans as equals in the galaxy. The main council chamber was huge. The ceiling went up so high that it disappeared in shadows. Seats were arranged in circles, with each alien species sitting together. The Vrextai sat on the left side. They looked like giant lizards with 4 arms. Their leader, General Caxthar, stared at the humans with cold yellow eyes. The Corallians sat on the right. They were tall and thin, with skin that changed colors when they talked. Their representative, Trade Master Yilseth, was already making jokes with other aliens. The humans could hear them laughing. In the center sat the Threnodi. They looked almost like humans, but their skin was blue and they had no hair. Their ambassador, Lord Fendal, read from a datapad. He did not look up when the humans entered. At the front of the chamber sat Council Prime Zethkalar. He was from the Nexari species. The Nexari had been in space longer than any other species. They thought this made them the wisest. Zethkalar was very old, even for his species. His gray skin was covered with wrinkles. His 6 arms moved slowly as he organized. His papers. "The human delegation may be seated," Zethkalar said. His voice was deep and echoed in the large room. Hyun-woo led his team to the small section marked for humans. The seats were uncomfortable and clearly made for other species. This was not an accident. Everything in the council building was designed to make humans feel small and out of place. Min-soo opened his folder and pulled out several reports. Over the past 3 years, he had prepared detailed plans for human military cooperation with the council. He had shown how human ships could help protect trade routes. He had explained how human soldiers could work with alien forces. The council had listened politely and then ignored everything. So-young activated her tablet and displayed charts showing human scientific discoveries. Humans had developed new medical treatments that could help many alien species. They had created new energy sources that were cleaner and more efficient. They had solved problems that had troubled the galaxy for centuries. But the council was not interested in human science. "We will now hear the final decision regarding the human petition for full membership," Zethkalar announced. Hyun-woo had been through this process many times. First, the council would list all the reasons why humans were not ready. Then they would offer a small compromise that gave humans nothing important. Finally, they would expect humans to be grateful for whatever scraps they received. General Caxthar stood up first. His forearms gestured as he spoke. "The Vrextai Empire has reviewed the human military capabilities. We find them adequate for a young species. However, humans show too much aggression. They fight too much among themselves. They cannot be trusted with real military responsibility." Min-soo's jaw tightened. The Vrextai had been fighting wars for over 1,000 years. They had destroyed 3 different species completely, but they thought humans were too aggressive. Trademaster Yilseth was next. Her skin shifted from green to orange as she talked. "The Corallian Trade Federation has studied human economic systems. Humans are too focused on individual profit. They do not understand the greater good of galactic commerce. They would disrupt our carefully balanced trade networks." So-young almost laughed. The Corallians were famous for cheating their trade partners. They had caused 2 major economic crashes in the past century, but they thought humans would be disruptive. Lord Fendal did not even stand up. He kept reading from his datapad as he spoke. The Threnody Republic finds human technology to be primitive and dangerous. Humans use brute force solutions instead of elegant engineering. Their ships are crude. Their weapons are unstable. Their computers are barely functional. So Young looked at her tablet. It was more advanced than anything the Threnody had ever built. Human ships were faster and stronger than most alien vessels, but the Council had already decided that human technology was worthless. One by one, every species gave their opinion. The result was always the same. Humans were too young, too aggressive, too primitive, too different. They needed to learn more before they could join the real civilized species. Finally, Zethkalar stood up. All 6 of his arms moved as he spoke, which meant he was making an important announcement. After careful consideration, the Galactic Council has reached a decision about humanity's place in our community. Hyunwoo already knew what was coming. He had read the leaked documents, but he let the old alien continue his speech. Humans will be granted limited associate status. You may trade with Council species, but only through approved channels. You may visit Council worlds, but only with proper permits. You may learn from our science, but you may not share your own research without approval. The conditions got worse. Humans could only travel in certain parts of the galaxy. They could only build colonies and systems that no other species wanted. They could only have a certain number of ships, and those ships could only carry limited weapons. Furthermore, Zethkalar continued, humanity must demonstrate its commitment to galactic peace. All human military vessels will be transferred to Council control. Human colonies will be supervised by Council administrators. Human research will be monitored by Council scientists. Min-Su stood up so fast that his chair fell over. You want us to give up our entire fleet? It is a reasonable request, General Caxthar said. Young species must prove they can be trusted. You're asking us to become prisoners in our own space, Min-Su said. You are being offered the chance to learn from your betters, Trademaster Yilseth replied. Her skin turned bright red, which meant she was angry. Many species would be grateful for such an opportunity. So Young looked around the chamber. Every alien representative was nodding in agreement. They all thought this was fair. They all believed humans should be happy to accept this deal. Hyunwoo had heard enough. He stood up slowly and straightened his jacket. The entire chamber became quiet. Even the translators stopped humming. Honored Council members, Hyunwoo said. His voice was calm and clear. 3 years ago, humanity came to you seeking partnership. We offered our friendship, our knowledge, and our strength. We asked only to be treated as equals. He walked forward, closer to the center of the chamber. You have listened to our proposals with closed minds. You have judged our species by your prejudices. You have demanded that we prove ourselves worthy while giving us no chance to do so. General Caxthar laughed. Young species always think they deserve more than they have earned. Earned? Hyunwoo asked. What have you earned, General? Your species has started more wars than any other in the galaxy. You have destroyed entire worlds. Yet you sit in judgment of human aggression. The Vrextai General's yellow eyes narrowed. Watch your tone, mammal. Hyunwoo turned to face Trademaster Yilseth. And you, Trademaster, your people have cheated and stolen from every species you've encountered. Your trade practices have caused suffering across the galaxy, yet you question human economics. The Corallian's skin turned deep purple. How dare you speak to us this way? And Lord Fendal, Hyunwoo continued, your republic claims technological superiority while using designs stolen from conquered species. Your elegant engineering is built on the backs of slave labor, yet you call human technology primitive. The Threnody ambassador finally looked up from his datapad. His blue face was twisted with anger. You forget your place, human. No, Hyunwoo said. I remember my place. Humans belong among the stars as free beings, not as servants to species who mistake age for wisdom. Council Prime Zethkalar raised, all 6 arms for silence. Ambassador Hyunwoo, you will apologize for these insults immediately. Hyunwoo looked around the chamber one more time. He saw the faces of beings who had already decided that humans were inferior. He saw the arrogance of species who thought their longevity gave them the right to rule others. He saw the fear in their eyes when humans spoke with strength instead of begging for scraps. "I will not apologize," Yunwu said. "Instead, I have an announcement." He pulled out a sealed document from his jacket. The paper was printed on Earth, using human materials and human technology. It bore the official seal of the Terran Federation. "The Terran Federation formally withdraws from these negotiations," Hyunwoo read. "We reject your offer of associate status. We reject your demands for our military assets. We reject your supervision of our colonies and research." The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens shouted in dozens of different languages. Translators buzzed frantically trying to keep up. But Hyunwoo continued reading in. 3 months had passed since the humans walked out of the council chambers. Admiral Donghyun of the Vrextai Imperial Fleet stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the star charts. The space around the human home system was marked with warning symbols. Every probe sent into that area had simply vanished. "Any word from the monitoring stations?" Donghyun asked his communications officer. "Nothing, sir. Human space is completely silent. No radio signals, no ship movements, no trade communications. It's like they disappeared completely." Donghyun's forearms crossed in front of his chest. This was not normal behavior for any species. When the council imposed sanctions, most young species would start sending desperate messages within weeks. They would beg for mercy and promise to follow all the rules. But humans were different. The silence was getting louder every day. On the Corallian trade world of Veltar, Trade Master Yilseth was having similar problems. Her skin shifted from blue to green as she read the latest reports. Human trade had stopped completely. No human ships visited Corallian ports. No human merchants sent business proposals. No human buyers placed orders for Corallian goods. "Have we tried to contact their trade centers directly?" she asked her assistant. "Yes, Trade Master. We sent messages to every human colony and trading post. None of them responded. It's like they cut all connections to the outside galaxy." Yilseth's skin turned orange with frustration. Human colonies had been some of her best customers. They bought large quantities of rare metals and exotic foods. They paid fair prices and always honored their contracts. Now that income was gone. But what worried her more was the intelligence reports. Corallian spies near human space reported massive increases in industrial activity. Factories that had been quiet were now working day and night. Shipyards that had built small trading vessels were now constructing something much larger. Mining operations had tripled their output. "What are they building?" she wondered aloud. Lord Fendal of the Threnody was asking the same question. His science teams had been monitoring human space with long-range sensors. What they found made no sense. Energy readings from the Sol system had increased by over 500%. The electromagnetic signatures suggested construction projects on a scale never seen before. "Are they building a military fleet?" asked his chief scientist. "Impossible," Fendal replied. "Humans don't have the technology for large-scale ship construction. Their industrial capacity is limited. They're probably just expanding their existing facilities." But the scientist looked worried. "Sir, these energy readings suggest they're using power sources we don't recognize. The patterns don't match any known human technology." Fendal dismissed the concern with a wave of his hand. "Humans are primitive. They're probably just running their factories harder to compensate for lost trade. They'll exhaust their resources soon enough." In the council chambers, emergency sessions were being held every week. The alien leaders were starting to worry, but they wouldn't admit it publicly. Council Prime Zethkalar called for reports from every species. "The Draconi report no human contact in their sector," announced the spider-like arachnid representative. "Human ships that used to pass through their territory have completely stopped." "The Centaurian hegemony confirms similar reports," added another alien. "Human diplomatic messages have ceased. Human cultural exchanges have ended. Human scientific collaborations have been terminated." General Caxthar of the Vrextai stood up. "This is exactly what we expected. Humans are throwing a tantrum because they didn't get what they wanted. They'll realize soon enough that they need the council more than the council needs them." But, privately, Caxthar was not so confident. His military analysts had been studying human history, What they found was disturbing. Humans had a pattern of becoming extremely dangerous when isolated and threatened. Their entire history was filled with examples of humans achieving impossible victories when everyone thought they were defeated. The most troubling report came from Jin Ho, a human who had chosen to stay in council space when his species withdrew. He worked as a cultural advisor for the Nexari Diplomatic Corps. Most council members ignored him, thinking he was just a curiosity. But Jin Ho understood things about humans that the aliens missed. "Council Prime," Jin Ho said during one meeting, "I must warn you about human behavior patterns. When humans feel cornered, they don't surrender. They innovate. They find new solutions to old problems. The silence you're experiencing is not defeat. It's preparation." Zethkalar barely looked at the human advisor. "You forget yourself, Jin Ho. Your species is young and inexperienced. They will learn to accept their place in the galactic order." Jin Ho tried again. "Sir, human history shows that isolation often leads to rapid technological advancement. When humans are cut off from outside help, they develop new capabilities faster than anyone expects. You should be concerned about what they're doing in that silence." "Enough," Zethkalar said. "Humans cannot possibly develop anything that threatens council superiority. We have millions of years of advancement. They have had space travel for less than a century." Jin Ho sat down, but he continued to worry. He had grown up on Earth before coming to work in council space. He knew how humans thought. He knew how they reacted to challenges. And he knew that 3 months of silence meant 3 months of furious work. On Kepler Station, near the border of human space, Heejin was experiencing the change firsthand. She was a human engineer who worked for a Nexari construction company. For years, she had been treated as an equal by her alien co-workers, but now everything was different. "Ye-Jin," her supervisor called her into his office. "We need to discuss your security clearance." "Is there a problem?" she asked. "The council has issued new guidelines regarding human workers. All humans in sensitive positions must be monitored more closely. Your access to classified projects is being suspended." Hyojin felt her stomach sink. "I've worked here for 5 years. I've never caused any problems. I've helped design some of your most successful projects." "It's not personal," the supervisor said. "But with the current situation, we can't take any risks. Humans might be gathering intelligence for their government." "What intelligence?" "I design water filtration systems and power generators. How is that a threat to galactic security?" But the supervisor had already made his decision. Hyejin was reassigned to basic maintenance work. Her years of experience and education meant nothing now. She was just another human who couldn't be trusted. Similar scenes were happening across the galaxy. Humans who had lived and worked in council space for years suddenly found themselves under suspicion. They were removed from important jobs, excluded from social groups, and watched constantly by security forces, but the humans didn't protest. They didn't complain. They simply did their new jobs quietly and sent reports back to human space. Reports about alien technology, alien weaknesses, and alien fears. The silence from human space was not empty. It was full of activity. On Earth, President Sojin held daily meetings with the greatest minds of humanity. Scientists, engineers, military officers, and philosophers all worked together on the same goal. "How long until the first phase is complete?" Sojin asked Admiral Woojin. 6 more months, Madam President. The new shipyards will be operational, and we'll have our first prototype vessels ready for testing." "And the new technologies?" Dr. Yoon-ji, the chief science advisor, answered that question. "The breakthrough in quantum mechanics is ahead of schedule. We've successfully tested faster-than-light communication, advanced energy shields, and weapon systems that operate on principles the Council doesn't understand." So Jin nodded. "What about industrial capacity?" Minister Seok Ho pulled up holographic displays showing production numbers. "We've converted 60% of our civilian factories to military production. Resource extraction from the asteroid belt has increased by 800%. We're building infrastructure faster than any point in human history." "And morale?" Sojin asked. General Changmin smiled. "The people are united like never before. Being rejected by the Council has given every human a common purpose. Scientists are working 16-hour days voluntarily. Factory workers are exceeding all production targets. Everyone understands what's at stake. The unity was remarkable. For the first time in human history, there were no major conflicts between nations, Republicans and Democrats, capitalists and socialists, Christians and Muslims. All human divisions seemed petty compared to the challenge they faced. They were no longer citizens of different countries. They were all humans preparing to prove their worth to a galaxy that had dismissed them. In deep space, automated human probes were conducting secret reconnaissance missions. They mapped alien patrol routes, identified key installations, and tested new stealth technologies. The probes were so advanced that alien sensors couldn't detect them. Council forces had no idea they were being watched and studied. The data collected was disturbing. Council military forces were large but outdated. Their ships used technologies that were centuries old. Their tactics were predictable and rigid. Their commanders were overconfident and unprepared for real challenges. But the most important discovery was political. The Council species didn't actually like each other very much. The Vrextai and Corallians had been enemies for thousands of years before joining the Captain Veltar of the Threnody expansion fleet was having a good day. His 12 battlecruisers had just finished a routine patrol of the outer systems. The space around Vega had been empty for centuries. No valuable resources, no habitable planets, no reason for anyone to claim the territory. But today was different. "Captain," his sensor officer called out, "I'm detecting an artificial structure in the Vega system. It wasn't there during our last patrol 6 months ago." Veltar looked at the display screen, where empty space had been before. Now there was something massive. The structure was at least 20 kilometers long and 5 kilometers wide. It was sleek and angular, like nothing in the Threnody databases. "Are you certain those readings are correct?" Veltar asked. "Yes, sir. The structure is definitely artificial. It's made of materials I don't recognize. The energy output is significant." Veltar studied the sensor data more carefully. The structure was broadcasting on standard communication frequencies, but the signal was encrypted in a way his computers couldn't decode. There were no other ships in the area, no construction equipment, no explanation for how such a massive installation could appear overnight. "Open a communication channel," Veltar ordered. "Let's see who built this thing." The response came immediately, in perfect Threnody language. "This is Captain Tae-jun of the Terran Defense Grid. You have entered human-protected space. I advise you to change course and leave immediately." The bridge crew looked at each other in confusion. Humans? This was nowhere near human space. The Sol system was over 50 light-years away. How could humans have built anything here? "Unknown vessel," Veltar responded. "This is Captain Veltar of the Threnody Republic Navy. You are in unclaimed space. By what authority do you order Threnody ships to withdraw?" "By the authority of superior firepower," came the calm reply. "Captain Veltar, your 12 ships are outgunned and outmatched. Leave now and no harm will come to you." Veltar laughed. His crew joined in. The idea that a single human installation could threaten 12 Threnody battlecruisers was ridiculous. Human technology was primitive. Their weapons were crude. Their shields were weak. This had to be some kind of joke. "Human, your species was recently expelled from the Galactic Council for arrogance and stupidity. I see you haven't learned your lesson. Surrender your installation immediately, or we will destroy it." There was a long pause before the human captain responded. "Captain Veltar, I'm going to give you one final chance. Turn your ships around and leave. You have 30 seconds to comply." "Or what?" Veltar asked. "You'll attack us with your primitive weapons? We have 12 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. You have one structure that probably can't even move." 20 seconds, the human said. Veltar had heard enough. Humans needed to learn that they couldn't threaten real military forces. "All ships, target the human installation. Prepare to fire. On my command." His battlecruisers moved into attack formation. Each ship was over a kilometer long and carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Their plasma cannons could burn through any known shielding. Their missile systems could overwhelm any point defense. Against a single station, they were unstoppable. 10 seconds, the human warned. Fire, Veltar commanded. 12 Threnody battlecruisers opened fire simultaneously. Hundreds of plasma bolts and energy missiles streaked toward the human station. It was enough firepower to vaporize a city. The attack should have destroyed the installation instantly. Instead, something impossible happened. The weapons struck what appeared to be empty space around the station and simply disappeared. Not deflected, not absorbed. They vanished completely, as if they had never existed. The station itself remained untouched, its hull gleaming in the starlight. What just happened? Veltar demanded. Sir, our weapons just stopped existing when they reached the target zone. Sensors show no energy, discharge, no impact, nothing. It's like they hit some kind of null field. Before Veltar could respond, the human station began to change. Sections of its hull opened to reveal weapon systems unlike anything in the Threnody databases. The weapons were smooth and organic-looking, as if they had been grown rather than built. Time's up, Captain Taejun said. The first human weapon fired a beam of pure energy that seemed to bend space itself. The beam struck Veltar's flagship amidships and cut completely through the vessel. The massive battlecruiser split in half, its reactor core exposed to vacuum. Secondary explosions tore through both sections as the ship died. But the human weapons were just getting started. The second shot hit another Threnody ship and did something even stranger. The battlecruiser began to come apart at the molecular level. Its hull plating separated into component atoms. Its weapons dissolved into metallic vapor. In less than 10 seconds, a kilometer-long warship had been reduced to a cloud of basic elements. The third shot created a sphere of twisted spacetime around its target. The Threnody ship was crushed by gravity so intense that it collapsed into a ball of super-compressed matter no larger than a marble. The remaining 9 ships tried to retreat, but they were too slow. Human weapons fired faster than Threnody sensors could track. Each shot destroyed a battlecruiser in a different way. One ship was frozen in time, becoming a statue in space. Another was transformed into pure energy and dispersed across several light years. A third simply vanished from reality entirely. The entire battle lasted 47 seconds. When it was over, 12 of the most advanced warships in the Threnody fleet had been destroyed without inflicting a single point of damage on the human station. Captain Taejun's voice came over the communication channel one last time. Message delivered. Captain Veltar, your destruction has been recorded and transmitted to the Galactic Council. They now know what happens when someone threatens human interests. But Veltar was already dead. His flagship had been the first target. There were no survivors from any of the Threnody ships. The human weapons had been too fast and too thorough. The battle recording reached Council Prime Zethkalar 3 days later. He watched it in his private office, his 6 arms trembling as the images played on his screen. 12 battlecruisers destroyed by weapons that operated on unknown principles. Technology that made Council forces look like children playing with toys. This must be some kind of trick, he told himself. Humans cannot possibly have developed such advanced capabilities. But the sensor data was clear. The energy signatures were real. The destruction was complete. Somehow, in 6 months of silence, humans had leaped centuries ahead of Council technology. Zethkalar called an emergency meeting of the Council leadership. Representatives from every major species gathered in the secure conference room. The battle recording played on the main screen while military experts analyzed every detail. General Kaxthar of the Vrextai was the first to speak. The weapons use principles we don't understand. Our scientists cannot explain how they function. Energy beams that bend space, disintegration fields that operate at the quantum level, gravity weapons that compress matter. This is technology, far beyond our current capabilities. Trademaster Yilseth of the Corallians was pale with fear. If humans can build weapons like this, what else have they developed? Their industrial capacity must have increased dramatically. Our economic models don't account for this level of advancement. Lord Fendal of the Threnody was openly shaking. That was our 7th Fleet. Our most experienced crews, our newest ships, our best weapons. They were destroyed without effort. If humans can do this to our military forces, how is this possible? Zethkalar demanded. 6 months ago, humans were begging for basic membership in the Council. Their technology was primitive. Their industrial base was limited. How could they advance so quickly? Jin Ho, the human cultural advisor, had been sitting quietly in the corner. Now he stood up and walked to the center of the room. Council Prime, I tried to warn you about human nature. You didn't listen then. Will you listen now? Speak, Zethkalar said. Humans are different from other species in one crucial way. When you threaten us, we don't just defend ourselves. We innovate. We find completely new solutions to old problems. You gave humanity 6 months to develop new capabilities. That's more than enough time for a species that treats impossibility as a starting point. General Caxthar interrupted. No species can advance centuries of technology in 6 months. It's impossible. Jinho smiled sadly. General, you still don't understand. Humans don't just develop technology linearly. When we're motivated, we make breakthrough discoveries that change everything at once. Your own scientists study human history. You know this pattern. Humans went from flying in primitive aircraft to landing on their moon in less than 70 years. They went from basic computers to artificial intelligence in 50 years. When humans are focused on a goal, impossible becomes inevitable. But how did they do it so quickly this time? Yilseth asked. Because for the first time in human history, our entire species was united around a single purpose. Every human scientist, engineer, and researcher worked together. No competition between nations, no hoarding of secrets, no wasted effort on duplicate projects. 6 billion humans working as one mind with one goal, proving that we deserve respect. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. If humans could develop weapons like this in 6, the message arrived simultaneously across 1,000 worlds. Every communication device in Council space received it at exactly the same moment. Military headquarters, civilian news networks, personal communicators, all carried the same transmission. The technology to broadcast across the entire galaxy instantly was impossible according to Council science, but there it was. Admiral Changmin of the Terran Expeditionary Force stood on the bridge of the TFS Indomitable, humanity's first true dreadnought. Behind him, holographic displays showed the positions of human fleets throughout the galaxy. For the first time in 6 months, human ships were visible to alien sensors. Citizens of the galaxy, Changmin began. His words carried to billions of beings across countless worlds. 6 months ago, humanity offered friendship to the Galactic Council. We were told we were too primitive, too aggressive, too different to join your community as equals. On the Vrextai homeworld, General Caxthar watched the transmission in his command center. Around him, military officers scrambled to understand how human ships had appeared throughout their territory without being detected. His empire's most secure bases were surrounded by vessels that registered as more advanced than anything in the Vrextai fleet. Today, Changmin continued, we demonstrate that humanity rejects the Council's judgment entirely. We reject the idea that age equals wisdom. We reject the belief that might makes right. We reject the assumption that the strong should dictate terms to the weak. Trademaster Yilseth stood in her office on the Corallian capital world, staring out the window at human ships hovering above the city. They were beautiful and terrifying, sleek vessels that seemed to bend light around their hulls. Her security forces had tried to target them with planetary defense systems, but the weapons simply refused to function. For too long, the human admiral said, the Council has maintained order through fear and intimidation. Species join because they are afraid of being conquered. They follow Council laws because they fear punishment. They accept inferior status because they believe they have no choice. Lord Fendal of the Threnody was experiencing his worst nightmare. Human ships had materialized inside the defensive perimeter of every major Threnody world. They had bypassed shields, avoided sensors, and appeared as if they had always been there. The same weapons that had destroyed his fleet at Vega were now pointed at his civilization's heart. Today, the galaxy learns that there is always a choice, Changmin announced. Strength does not require conquest. Security does not require oppression. Order does not require submission. Council Prime Zethkalar sat in his emergency bunker beneath the capital city, surrounded by the most advanced defensive systems in the galaxy. They were useless. Human ships floated above his world like angels of judgment, their presence a constant reminder of how completely the balance of power had shifted. "We are not conquerors," Changmin said. "We are liberators. We have come to free this galaxy from the tyranny of the old order." The transmission ended, but the real demonstration was just beginning. Fleet Admiral Yunji commanded the human forces in Vrextai space. Her ships moved with precision that defied understanding, appearing and disappearing, at will. When Vrextai military bases tried to coordinate a response, they found their communication systems jammed by technology that turned their own signals against them. "Admiral Kaxthar," Yunji transmitted to the Vrextai general, "your empire has 57 military installations in this sector. Each one is now surrounded by human vessels. Your fleets are outnumbered 3-1, and your weapons cannot penetrate our defensive fields." Kaxthar looked at his tactical displays in disbelief. Every Vrextai stronghold showed the same pattern: human ships in perfect formation, waiting, with the patience of machines and the intelligence of living beings. "I offer you a choice," Yunji continued. "Surrender your weapons and accept human protection, or watch your military infrastructure be systematically dismantled. You have 1 hour to decide." The same message was being delivered across the galaxy. Commander Siakho led the human fleet in Corallian space, where Trademaster Yilseth was learning that her economic empire meant nothing when faced with beings who could create resources from empty space. Human ships demonstrated matter conversion technology, turning asteroids into refined metals and energy in real time. "Your trade networks are built on artificial scarcity," Siakho informed the Corallian leadership. "You control access to resources to maintain power over weaker species. We can eliminate scarcity entirely. Your economic model is obsolete." In Threnody space, Captain Taejun commanded a task force that made Lord Fendal question everything. He believed about technology. Human ships phased through solid matter, existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, and manipulated time itself to avoid enemy attacks. "Your Republic claims technological superiority," Taejun transmitted. "But your greatest achievements are based on principles we abandoned months ago. We have moved beyond the limitations that constrain your thinking." The responses varied by species, but the pattern was always the same. Alien military forces tried to resist and found their weapons useless. Council fleets attempted coordinated attacks and discovered they were fighting an enemy that existed partially outside normal spacetime. Planetary defense systems activated and simply shut down when human ships approached. But the humans were careful not to cause unnecessary destruction. When Vrextai bases surrendered, human engineers arrived to help dismantle weapons safely. When Corallian trade stations complied with new regulations, human technicians shared improved manufacturing techniques. When Threnody research facilities opened their databases, human scientists offered genuine collaboration instead of exploitation. The message was clear: cooperation brought benefits, while resistance brought only futility. Dr. Sung Ho commanded the human science vessels that appeared at major research centers across the galaxy. His teams demonstrated technologies that made centuries of alien research seem primitive. Faster-than-light communication that operated instantly across galactic distances. Energy sources that tapped directly into the quantum vacuum. Medical techniques that could regenerate lost limbs and cure diseases thought incurable. "Knowledge belongs to all sentient beings," Sung Ho announced to the assembled scientists of a dozen species. "The Council hoards information to maintain control. We share it freely to promote understanding." The demonstrations continued for 3 days. Human fleets moved through Council space like living things, appearing wherever resistance formed and disappearing when compliance was achieved. They showed a level of coordination that suggested individual ships were parts of a larger organism, all working toward the same goal with perfect unity. But the most shocking display came on the third day, when Admiral Chang Min himself arrived at the Council capital world. The TFS Indomitable was a ship unlike anything in galactic history. It was over 50 kilometers long, but its mass seemed to fluctuate according to unknown principles. Its hull was made of materials that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Its weapons could reorganize matter at the subatomic level, or bend space-time to create gravitational anomalies. Council Prime Zethkalar, Chang Min transmitted. I request permission to land and address the Council in person. Zethkalar sat in his bunker, surrounded by advisors who had no idea how to respond. His defensive systems couldn't target the human ship. His military forces couldn't approach it. His diplomatic protocols didn't cover situations where the other party had such overwhelming superiority. You may land, Zethkalar finally replied. But the Council will not negotiate under duress. I'm not here to threaten you, Chang Min said. I'm here to offer you a choice. The shuttle that landed at the Council building was small and elegant, with no visible weapons or armor. Chang Min stepped out wearing a simple military uniform, followed by a small diplomatic team. They looked exactly like humans had 6 months ago, unremarkable mammals from a young species. But when they entered the Council chambers, the atmosphere was completely different. The aliens who had dismissed human intelligence now hung on every word. The species that had mocked human technology now studied every device the humans carried. The beings who had demanded human submission now waited nervously for human decisions. Chang Min walked to the center of the chamber and looked around at the assembled representatives. 6 months ago, Ambassador Hyunwoo stood in this same place and offered you partnership. You responded with arrogance and contempt. Today, I stand here with the power to impose any terms I choose. The question is, what should I choose? General Kaxthar tried to maintain his dignity. Humans may have superior weapons, but you cannot control an entire galaxy through force alone. You're absolutely right, Chang Min agreed. Force alone is insufficient for lasting peace. That's why we're not using force alone. He activated a holographic display that showed the current state of the galaxy. Human fleets were positioned at every major world, but they were not occupying territory. Instead, they were providing services. Human medical ships were treating plague outbreaks on Draconi worlds. Human engineering teams were repairing infrastructure damaged by natural disasters. Human scientists were sharing breakthrough discoveries with alien researchers. This is not conquest, Chang Min X. 1 year had passed since humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Council negotiations. The galaxy barely resembled what it had been before. Where once there had been rigid hierarchies and artificial scarcities, now there was cooperation and abundance. Where once species had competed for resources and territory, now they worked together to explore new frontiers and solve old problems. Ye Jin stood at the observation deck of Unity Station, the massive orbital facility that had replaced the old Council headquarters. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see ships from dozens of species docking peacefully. Vrextai vessels worked alongside former enemies. Corallian traders shared routes with competitors. Threnody scientists collaborated with researchers they had once looked down upon. As the first human sector coordinator, Ye Jin had spent the past year helping to rebuild galactic civilization from the ground up. It had been the most challenging job of her life, but also the most rewarding. Today, she was preparing for the first anniversary celebration of what historians were already calling the transformation. Coordinator Ye Jin, her assistant called, out. The ceremony is ready to begin. Ye Jin straightened her formal robes and walked to the main assembly hall. The space was enormous, designed to accommodate representatives from every known species. But unlike the old council chambers, the seating was arranged in circles of equality rather than hierarchies of power. No species sat higher than any other. No delegation was given more space or better positions. At the center of the hall stood a simple podium where J1, Earth's foreign minister, would address the assembled delegates. Around him sat the new Galactic Coordination Committee, representatives chosen not for the power of their species, but for their wisdom and commitment to cooperation. The ceremony began with a moment of silence for those who had died in the conflicts. That led to this moment. The Threnody fleet that had been destroyed at Vega, the Vrextai soldiers who had resisted human occupation forces, the Corallian traders who had lost everything when the old economic system collapsed. Even in victory, humans remembered that change always carried a price. J1 stepped up to the podium and looked out at the thousands of beings gathered before him. Representatives from over 300 species filled the hall. Many of them had never been allowed to participate in galactic governance before. Some came from species so young that the old council had barely acknowledged their existence. Others represented ancient civilizations that had been marginalized for millennia. "Friends," J1 began, his words automatically translated into hundreds of languages. 1 year ago, the galaxy was divided. The strong dominated the weak, the old oppressed the young, the few hoarded resources while the many struggled for basic needs. In the Vrextai section, former General Caxthar listened with attention he had never shown to human speakers before. He now served as a security advisor to the Coordination Committee, helping to maintain peace without oppression. The transition had been difficult for his proud warrior species, but they had discovered that protecting the innocent was more honorable than conquering the weak. Today, J1 continued, we live in a different galaxy. Resources are shared freely. Knowledge belongs to all who seek it. No species rules over any other, and no being is denied the chance to reach their potential. Trade Coordinator Yilseth, no longer a master but an equal among equals, nodded in agreement. The former Corallian had adapted quickly to the new economic system. Instead of hoarding rare materials to maintain artificial prices, she now managed distribution networks that ensured every world had access to what it needed. Her income was lower, but her work was far more meaningful. But we did not achieve this transformation through conquest, J1 said. We achieved it through demonstration. We showed the galaxy what was possible when beings worked together, instead of against each other. Lord Fendal of the Threnody had been perhaps the most changed by the new order. His species' pride in their technology had been shattered when humans demonstrated capabilities beyond their imagination. But instead of falling into despair, the Threnody had embraced the opportunity to learn. Fendal now led joint research, projects that were making discoveries at a pace that would have been impossible under the old system. The humans could have imposed their will through force, J1 acknowledged. Their military superiority was absolute. Their technology was beyond anything we could counter. But instead of becoming conquerors, they chose to become teachers. Admiral Do-hyun of the Galactic Defense Force watched from the military section. His fleet protected trade routes and responded to emergencies across the galaxy. But unlike the old Council forces, his ships carried medical supplies and construction equipment alongside their weapons. The Defense Force's primary mission was not to fight wars, but to prevent them through rapid humanitarian response. Today we face challenges that no single species could solve alone, J1 said. We are exploring new galaxies beyond our own. We are developing technologies that could revolutionize how we understand the universe. We are building a civilization that could last for millions of years. Dr. Min Young, the chief diplomatic officer, sat with the scientific delegation. She had spent the year establishing new protocols for first contact with alien species. The galaxy was expanding rapidly as human transportation technology allowed exploration of previously unreachable regions. New civilizations were being discovered every month, and each one was invited to join the cooperative framework as an equal partner. But our greatest achievement is not technological, J1 explained. It is social. We have proven that beings, from different worlds, with different biologies and different cultures, can work together for the common good. In the audience, Jin-Ho listened with pride and satisfaction. The human cultural advisor had become a bridge between species, helping aliens understand human thinking, while teaching humans about alien perspectives. His warnings about human nature had been ignored a year ago. Now his insights were valued by leaders across the galaxy. This does not mean our work is finished, Jae-won continued. Cooperation requires constant effort. Trust must be earned every day. Peace must be maintained through vigilance and wisdom. The speech continued for another hour, outlining the achievements of the past year and the goals for the future. New colonies were being established in previously uninhabitable systems using human terraforming technology. Medical advances were eliminating diseases that had plagued the galaxy for centuries. Educational programs were spreading literacy and scientific knowledge to billions of beings who had never had access to learning. But the most important changes were harder to measure. Children from different species played together on integrated worlds. Scientists shared discoveries freely instead of hoarding them for national advantage. Traders competed on quality and service rather than exploiting desperation and scarcity. When the ceremony ended, the delegates moved to the reception halls for informal discussions. Ye-jin walked among them, listening to conversations that would have been impossible a year ago. Vrextai engineers were teaching Corallian students about shield technology. Threnody artists were collaborating with human musicians on new forms of entertainment. Alien philosophers were debating the ethics of faster-than-light travel with human ethicists. Coordinator Ye-jin, a familiar voice called out. She turned to see former Council Prime Zeth-Kalar approaching. The elderly Nexari looked older than his years, but his expression was peaceful in a way it had never been during his time as the galaxy's ruler. Zeth-Kalar, Ye-jin replied warmly. How are you adjusting to retirement? The former leader smiled. Better than I expected. For millennia, I believed that order required hierarchy. I thought peace could only be maintained through fear. I was wrong. You were doing what you thought was best for the galaxy, Ye-jin said diplomatically. Perhaps, but I was also protecting the privileges of the old and powerful. Your species showed us a better way. Zeth-Kalar paused and looked around the reception hall. Tell me honestly, do you ever regret the path humanity chose? You could have become the new rulers of the galaxy. Instead, you gave up that power to create this cooperative system. Ye-jin considered the question carefully. We never wanted to rule the galaxy. We wanted to explore it, to learn from it, to contribute to it. Rulership would have made us prisoners of our own power. And now? Now we are free to become something greater than any single species could achieve alone. Zeth-Kalar nodded slowly. Your species has taught us that true strength comes not from dominating others, but from lifting them up. As the evening progressed, Ye-jin found herself in conversation with beings from across the galaxy. Each had their own story of how the transformation had changed their lives. A young Draconi scientist who had developed new agricultural techniques using human quantum biology. A Centaurian poet whose work was being translated into dozens of languages for the first time. An elderly arachnid engineer who had helped design the new transportation networks that connected previously isolated worlds. But perhaps the most meaningful conversation came near the end of the evening, when she spoke with a group of children from the integrated colony on New Harmony. They were a mix of species, human, Vrextai, Corallian, Threnody, and others. They